Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sell More Academy, the mastermind for more sales. My name is Ben McGarry, and for the last 2 decades, I've spent nearly every day trying to figure out how to sell more stuff. I've been in the trenches selling my own products and services for years. I've built teams, companies, and systems that sell from Main Street, small town USA, all the way to Wall Street. And I've been fortunate enough to coach and consult for countless others worldwide, all in totaling over $150 million in sales. During that time, it has become painfully obvious that the marketplace is and always will be loud and noisy. Content creators and social media gurus promote clickbait tactics and short-sighted strategies that often cause more harm than good. It seems like everyone has all the tools at their fingertips these days, but nobody really understands how to put it all together. Plus, what worked yesterday might not work today and will almost certainly be different again by tomorrow. And that's precisely why I started Sell More Academy, to build a community and a set of resources to help you stay ahead of the curve, to help cut through the noise and make sense of your next best step. At Sell More Academy, we focus on what we consider to be the 5 pillars of modern business success: AI, branding, marketing, sales, and systems. We bring this to you through a powerful combination of a vibrant mastermind community where you can connect with and learn from fellow high achievers and experts in the field, live masterclasses just like this one, where we dive deep into the strategies and tactics of each pillar, covering one per day, a curated collection of resources, including free tools that we're building to help you sell more effectively, and our Sell More directory, connecting you with the pre-vetted providers and solutions that you'll need whenever it's time to either outsource or just find the right tool for the job. Our goal here is to provide you with everything that you need to not only stay informed and competitive, but to sell a lot more stuff. And that brings us to today's masterclass, where we're going to go over branding. Today, we're going to go specifically into brand voice and how to let your authentic brand voice shine through. Now, if you Google how to build a brand voice, you're going to get the same advice that everyone gets. Be consistent, sound like an expert. And that's why 99% of brands sound identical. They sound safe. They sound polished. And quite frankly, they sound like they were all written by the exact same AI prompt now. But we're living in an era of infinite noise and near zero trust. Your customers are tired of polished. They want something that's real, that they can actually connect with. So for the next 45 minutes, we're not actually going to talk about color palettes or font choices or building our brand guide. We've done that. Instead, we're going to talk about guts. We're going to talk about being willing to be authentic and put yourself out there. We're going to look at diners like Waffle House, police departments. We're going to look at an oat milk company, and we're going to look at how they've used radical authenticity to dominate their markets. And then we're going to look at some others that have tried to capture trends and have failed pretty miserably. And then finally, I'll give you a 5-part framework so that you can make sure that your voice is authentically coming through at all times. Now, we'll try to get done in about 45 minutes here, but if it takes a little longer, that's only because we want to make sure that we go through this in depth. So let's talk about the authentic brand voice. And what we're trying to do here is not to build trust. We're trying to build loyalty instead of these brands that chase these viral moments. The authentic brand voice means that you don't have to be clever. You get to be real. And if and when you get it right, well, it seems to become kind of like your own competitive advantage, your moat, your the protection barrier around your business that really competition can't come into, because they're not authentically you. If you've ever felt like there was a brand that was maybe trying too hard, or maybe you lost your trust in a brand because they seemed unauthentic or just not real, the feeling that you had, that's what we're going to try to prevent here. Because authenticity is not luck, it's a system like everything else. And we're going to walk through that system together here. Okay. The real problem is that consumers can detect inauthenticity almost immediately. The audience that we're dealing with is very sophisticated. That's part of the noise that's in the marketplace. They've been marketed to their entire lives. They can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. When Pepsi released the Kendall Jenner ad in 2017, the backlash was immediate because everybody could see the disconnect between what Pepsi was claiming to be and what Pepsi actually does. It felt fake. It felt exploited. It felt like they were exploiting us. It felt like just something that some marketers put together in a room. And within 24 hours, it was completely gone. But the damage lasted much longer. I mean, here we are years later talking about it. And the stakes are even higher now. Consumers aren't just looking for good products, they're looking for brands that actually stand for something. And they're willing to punish any brand that doesn't. So there's some good news to all of this. The good news is that authenticity becomes a competitive advantage. So if you're looking for ways to stand out in the crowd, here it is. When you get it right, you build something that your competitors cannot copy. Waffle House has been doing the same thing for over 70 years. They are not trendy. They refuse to try to be cool. They're just reliably and authentically themselves. And people always love them for it. No matter where you are in the country, you can expect something very similar, a very similar experience when you go into Waffle House. In 1 month, they gained 350,000 followers. Not because they were trying to go viral, not because they were a new company with a new product or a new hook, because they were finally being honest. And that's the power of authenticity. It's not some marketing hook or an angle. It's not a tactic. It's a competitive advantage and one that you need to use to the best of your ability. So let's take a look at a couple of examples here. Well, first we have the Waffle House. Well, McDonald's redesigns every few years and Starbucks chases the latest aesthetic trends. Waffle House has done something remarkable. They have stayed exactly true to who they are all along. They're not trying to innovate. They're not trying to be trendy. They're trying to be reliable and accessible. They want to be consistent. And that consistency has become so trusted that economists use the Waffle House Index to measure economic health. Think about that. A restaurant chain has become so authentically aligned with its mission that it's become an economic indicator. That's not marketing. That's something well beyond that. That is true authenticity. That is being everywhere who you say you are. Their social media doesn't try to be clever. It just reflects them. And people respond to that. Here we can see a bit of that in action. So what you're seeing is how the Waffle House communicates on social media. It's not necessarily a marketing message. The context here is the Waffle House Index. And so, like we said, we know that government agencies are actually using this. FEMA uses it to gauge a disaster's severity. FEMA. So when there are national emergencies going on, they turn to the Waffle House Index to help people understand better. So green means they have a full menu. Yellow means it's a limited menu, and red means it's closed. That's how crazy it is for a Waffle House to be closed. It has to be a serious emergency. The result is a brand that communicates with absolute clarity and zero fluff. They don't offer thoughts and prayers. They state facts about their operations. And the lesson here is pretty profound. Authenticity means that your brand reflects your actual operational reality. So it's not about who you say you are or what you say you'll do, but about how you consistently take action. This level of transparency builds the goodwill, the credibility, the authenticity that we're so often looking for. And marketing campaigns really just cannot buy for us. So if we have time at the end, I'll double back and we'll take a look at some of the Waffle House's X posts. If not, we'll just link this in the videos or below the videos so that you can take a look at them on your own. Next, we have sarcasm as a strategy. Now, this is probably one of the most easily, or the one that people try to copy the most, but it's because the wild success that they had doing this, and it fit them that well. So let's take a look at it. Wendy's is showing us that sometimes authenticity means being a little snarky. The brand shifted from a bureaucratic corporate tone to something that was bold and witty. It wasn't some marketing agency invention. It was really a revelation of their actual brand personality. The challenger with charm approach meant that they could roast competitors in a way that felt earned. It resonated with their target audience, leading to 350,000 followers, new followers in 1 month. The key is that the snark wasn't forced. It matched their fresh, never frozen ethos. It was authentic sarcasm that they earned because they were different. Forced sarcasm often feels desperate. We can usually detect that, but Wendy's earned it. So let's take a look at kind of how that all started. And so this is the one that kind of broke the internet for a while and definitely spurred some copycats thereafter. But what we're seeing is a tweet exchange that wasn't a planned campaign. This wasn't an agency set up to run this. This was a social media manager that finally decided or was empowered to just be a human that day. A user challenged Wendy's fresh, never frozen claim. Wendy's fired back with genuine wit. This example, this simple, witty retort unlocked their authentic voice. And because it worked, they kept going. Authenticity often emerges from unexpected or unscripted moments just like this. So when you empower your team to be real, you have more opportunity to find these. And this is what happens when the brand stops trying to control the narrative and starts being honest, right? So you have this idea, that's kind of permeated work culture forever, that the customer's always right. It's definitely not the angle that they took here. You forgot refrigerators existed for a second there. Literally just made fun of them because that's their ethos. That's who they are. They can say, we are fresh, never frozen, and they can back that up. And so whether it's something that you are planning for or the opportunity arises, make sure that whatever that voice is that you let out, it matches across the board with everything else you do. Okay, next, let's talk about police departments. Obviously, we could stick with fast food for a while. That could be fun, but let's look to a more unexpected place for authentic branding. You wouldn't really expect humor from law enforcement, but departments like the Bangor Police Department have found a way to make this happen. Their social media is funny because it's real. The humor reflects the actual culture within the department. It's not something that's manufactured, and because of that, they're not trying too hard. This approach builds that goodwill with the community, it builds credibility with the community, and it shows the human side of law enforcement, especially at a time where law enforcement is questioned in different parts of the world. So it makes them more relatable. It makes them human. And that relatability is far more powerful than any carefully crafted corporate message that maybe the compliance team could put out. Authenticity doesn't require perfection. It just requires being real. So let's see how they put this into practice. Well, one thing that they did, and again, if we have time, we'll open this up and take a look. Otherwise, feel free to search this out on your own time. One thing that they did, they became famous for their social media presence, and they created this duck of justice. And it was a mascot that became a symbol of their approachable human brand voice. It gave them a way to connect. It wasn't some corporate marketing campaign. It was a genuine reflection of their culture. By being willing to be funny, to be vulnerable, they ended up building an incredible sense of community and became a model for police departments nationwide. Now we see the same kind of thing happen all over the country. This is what happens when we stop trying to be official and start being human. So one of the things that they did with this duck of justice was a stuffed duck, and they carried it around. People took pictures with it. It's in places all over the city. There's a spot where I believe you can go stand in line and take pictures of it. There's something like 30,000 people roughly in Bangor, and 300,000 people follow this police department on social media, on Facebook. So it's pretty crazy the amount of reach that you can get by just being real. And that becomes even more important in this age of AI. We're all used to it, and we can kind of start to shut off automatically once it's AI. There's some real processing psychology that's very interesting there, but different topic for a different day. So amidst the sea of fake, if you can be real, it's much easier to stand out. Okay, another one, and one that is definitely my favorite, or one of my favorites, is Oatly. They are just sarcastic. They're always looking for opportunities, but their sarcasm is not just random. It has a purpose. They position themselves as a cultural publisher, not just a food company. Their humor serves a mission to challenge the dairy industry. They call out dairy industry with pure and genuine conviction. This is not about getting likes. It's about taking a stand for them. And because of that, they prioritize opinion over promotion in their content, which is such a backward sounding thing for anybody who's been in the marketing world, to focus on opinions over promotion. But this approach has resonated with Gen Z, it resonated with millennials, and it's resonating with older generations that value transparency, that are sick of being lied to. Authentic sarcasm has a purpose. It serves something bigger than just getting likes. They use it to drive their mission, but it helps to cut through and make people quickly understand. So let's take a look. Video's unplayable. It's just the way that it's working in this presentation, but I'll share the link, and again, we'll look at it if we have time. But their genius really lies in how they turn challenges into brand building moments. Their slogan is "It's like milk, but made for humans," perfectly encapsulates their provocative yet authentic brand voice. This wasn't just a clever tagline, it was a direct challenge to the dairy industry, implying that cow's milk isn't natural for human consumption. When the Swedish dairy lobby sued them for disparaging milk, Oatly didn't back down. Instead, they printed the entire lawsuit text on their packaging, transforming a legal defeat into a powerful statement of conviction. This move solidified their rebellious image and proved that they genuinely believe in their mission rather than just using sarcasm for shock value. It's its own masterclass in how to use controversy to reinforce authenticity rather than undermine it. And Oatly is fantastic for the simple fact that everywhere you see Oatly, you're going to see them in the same way. They have this meta authenticity. And so this is really kind of next level stuff. They have an entire section of their website called brainwashing. And on that page, they do something remarkable. They publicly rank their own ads. Some are ranked as great, some are ranked as mediocre, some they admit were failures. This is that meta authenticity at play. They're being transparent about the fact that they're advertising. They're not pretending that their marketing is something else. They're saying, here's what we're doing, here's how we're good at it, and here's how we're bad at it. That honesty itself is a form of authenticity. Most brands hide from their failures, and we're going to look at a few of those. Oatly celebrates them. Most brands pretend they're not trying to persuade you. Oatly says, yes, we're trying to persuade you. That's what advertising is. And we're going to be honest about how well we're doing it. This approach removes the friction between what the brand is doing and what the audience knows the brand is doing. And that alignment is truly authenticity at its highest level. So what happens when brands pretend? You see Wendy's or Oatly being sarcastic and snarky, and you think, well, that's what I want to do. Well, what happens is not just some minor missteps. These are catastrophic failures that end up eroding trust. That's why we don't believe in trust here at Sell More Academy, because it's so easy to erode, and you can damage reputations. Pepsi tried to co-opt social justice for profit, resulting in immediate backlash. Dove, a brand built on real beauty, released an ad that directly contradicted its stated values. And Jaguar recently, a brand with over a century of heritage, abandoned its entire identity, confusing customers and alienating its dealers. The pattern is super clear. When a brand's messaging does not align with its reality, authenticity breaks down, and everyone can tell instantly. We'll dive into each of these examples here so that we have a better understanding of the specific missteps. But again, we will try to get to some of these videos after the fact. They didn't want to play today. So first thing we're going to look at is the Pepsi 2017 campaign, where they tried to capitalize on a social justice movement to build authenticity. And this is a textbook example of trying to buy your way in and failing spectacularly. They attempted to position themselves as part of the movement, using a very serious issue as a backdrop for selling soda. The ad felt performative and expletive, and completely disconnected from the gritty reality of actual protests. The response was an immediate and severe backlash, forcing Pepsi to pull the ad within 24 hours. The lesson here is profound. You cannot fake conviction. If your brand doesn't genuinely stand for something, don't pretend that it does. Authenticity cannot be bought or manufactured. It must be earned through genuine alignment. We'll definitely make sure that we watch the bad examples here because they're short and they give us, the guidelines for what not to do. Okay, next we have another 2017 moment where we tried to capitalize on what was going on and failed wonderfully. So this was a contradiction that absolutely destroyed the trust that Dove had worked so hard and spent so much time and energy and money building. This is another painful example of how quickly things can collapse when our actions contradict our words. So for years, Dove had meticulously built a brand identity around real beauty inclusion and celebrating the diversity of all body types. This was actually done so well that I made a previous video on this about using the Real Beauty campaign as manipulation. It was that well done. And the positioning was a true cornerstone of their brand. Then, in 2017, they released an ad that showed a Black woman removing her brown top to reveal a white woman underneath. The implication was pretty clear and pretty deeply offensive that dark skin needed to be cleaned away to reveal lighter skin. This action directly contradicted every value that Dove claimed to uphold. When your actions contradict your messaging, authenticity doesn't just waver, it collapses instantly. The trust built over the years can be destroyed in one single tone-deaf moment. And they did it. The funny thing about this ad is it failed from a creative aspect, no copy needed. You can listen to it on mute and see that how poorly this did. Again, we'll make time to check these out at the end. And then finally, we have Jaguar 2024. This was big news. Was this an evolution or was this some type of abandonment? Well, in 2024, when Jaguar decided to rebrand, they decided to abandon their identity rather than evolving it. Jaguar has over 100 years of heritage. They're built on performance and they're built on luxury. But in 2024, they tried to erase that history and chase a modern aesthetic that alienated their core customers. This wasn't some kind of evolution. This was abandoning everything that they had built. The result was dealer standstill and customer confusion. Authenticity means having the courage to stay true to who you are, even while evolving. So the test is really simple. If you're considering a major change, ask yourself, are we evolving who we are or are we running away from who we are? Because the answer and your direction matters. Okay, so we'll check out a good example of the heritage of what Jaguar stood for and the rebrand so you can see the disconnect. But before we get into that, let's make sure that we get to the topic at hand, and that is making sure that you can have an authentic brand voice. So we have 5 pillars here that make up the framework to ensure that authenticity isn't luck, that it's a system that you can replicate. But if you skip any of these, you will be vulnerable to the same mistakes we just looked at. So take your time and take notes. Pillar number 1, you must know your real self, not your aspirational self. Pillar 1 is discovery. This is about knowing who you actually are, not who you want to be. Most brands can tell you their aspirational identity, the dream or the hero that they want to represent. But that's not where authenticity lies. Authenticity lies in the gap between who you want to be and who you actually are. So start with 3 questions. First, what problem do you genuinely solve? Not the aspirational version, the real one that you solve every single day. Second, who are you really serving? Not your ideal customer, your actual customer, the person who pays you today. Third, what's your company culture actually like? Not the LinkedIn version, the real conversations, the real values, and the behaviors that happen behind closed doors. Waffle House nailed this. They're not trying to be innovative. They're genuinely committed to being reliable, accessible, and consistent. That's their identity. Everything flows from that. So pillar 1, know your real self. Pillar 2, draw lines. Pillar 2 is about boundaries. Authenticity isn't just about what you say. It's about what you refuse to say. Wendy's is snarky, but they're not cruel. Oatly is rebellious, but they're not reckless. The police department is funny, but never at the expense of their actual mission. So just like that, your boundaries should be clear. What ethical lines won't you cross? What values matter more than a viral moment? Where do you stay in your lane? Pepsi's Kendall Jenner ad crossed a boundary. Dove's skin tone ad crossed another boundary. They tried to capture attention by violating their own stated values. So the test here is simple. If your brand voice requires you to be someone you're not or do something that you wouldn't do, it's not authentic. It's a costume, and everyone will know. Let's move to pillar 3. Your actions must prove your words. So pillar 3 is alignment. This is where most brands will fail. They craft beautiful messaging that contradicts their actual behavior. Dove claims to celebrate all body types and then releases an ad showing a woman removing dark skin. The message and the action are in direct conflict. When this happens, authenticity will collapse. Your voice has to be backed by your behavior. This means your messaging reflects your actual values, not the aspirational ones. Your team can live the voice. If your brand voice doesn't match your company culture, employees will feel the disconnect, and your actions prove your words. Over time, your behavior violates or invalidates your messaging. Waffle House has 70 years of consistency that prove their voice is authentic. They've had decades to abandon their identity and chase trends, but they haven't. That's proof. The test is this. If you had to choose between your brand voice and your profit margin, which one would you choose? Your answer here will reveal your actual values and where you need the most work. So messaging plus behavior equals authenticity. Pillar 4, be recognizable across every channel. Pillar 4 is about consistency. Authentic brands sound like themselves, whether you're reading their Twitter or X, their website, their customer service emails, their sales pitch, their physical billboards. This doesn't mean that they have robotic repetition. It means that the underlying personality, values, and tone are recognizable. Wendy's snarky tone shows up on Twitter, in their ads, and in their customer interactions. Oatly's rebellious tone is consistent across social, their website, their packaging, across billboards, across mosaics they've had printed. It's wild. The police department's humor is present in their tweets, in their community events, and in their internal culture. Consistency builds credibility. When customers know what to expect from your brand, they feel safer engaging with you. The common mistake is trying to be different things on different platforms. You can't be serious on LinkedIn and then funny on TikTok and then corporate on your website. This fragmentation will signal something isn't quite right. And so your audiences will feel the disconnect. Authenticity requires consistency, and that's pillar 4. And then we have pillar 5, evolution. Authenticity doesn't mean stagnation. Brands do need to evolve. The question is, how do you evolve without abandoning your identity? Jaguar tried a completely new rebrand in 2024. They abandoned 100 years of identity to chase a new direction. And that didn't work. That's abandonment. Real evolution looks different. You adapt your expression, not your core. Waffle House has evolved their social media presence, but their core identity remains unchanged. Wendy's shifted to a snarky voice because it matched their actual brand personality and resonated with the real audience. They didn't become something new. They became more authentically themselves. Oatly is not out there chasing trends. They lead conversations about what they actually care about. That keeps them relevant without requiring constant reinvention. The test is simple. If you're considering a major change, ask yourself, are we evolving who we are, or are we running away from who we are? That question is your answer. Okay, so the authenticity audit. 5 questions that you'll need to know. First is the culture test. Does your brand voice match your actual company culture? Would your team describe the brand the same way you do? If you removed the marketing budget, would your brand still sound like this? Second, the consistency test. Does your voice sound the same across all channels? Can customers recognize your brand by tone alone? Are there channels where you sound completely different? Third, the alignment test. Do your actions match your messaging? Would you stake your reputation on your brand voice? Are there areas where your behavior contradicts your messaging? Fourth, the boundary test. Do you have clear lines about what you won't do? Have you turned down opportunities that violated your values? Do you know where your lane ends? And fifth, the time test. Could you maintain this voice for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Does this voice feel sustainable or like a trend you're chasing? If you can answer yes to all 5 of these, there's a good chance that your brand voice is authentic. Authenticity is the only currency that matters. We've already audited your brand voice, but now it's time to really understand why this work matters so profoundly. Authenticity is not just a buzzword, and it's not something that we got on this call to just repeat over and over. It's your most potent competitive weapon. Consumers today instantly can detect inauthenticity, and one misstep can erode years of trust. Authentic brands build loyalty that money simply can't buy. Your competitors can replicate your products or services, but they can never truly copy your voice. The real question isn't if you can afford to be authentic, but rather, can you really afford in today's day and age to not be? All right, so I want to give you a couple actions that you could take this week. We understand that the having an authentic voice is absolutely critical, but let's talk about immediate actionable steps. You can start building a more authentic brand voice this week by first auditing your current brand voice against the 5 pillars that we discussed. Identify your strengths and your vulnerabilities. Second, you're going to pinpoint just one area where your words don't quite align with your actions, and then commit to fixing that. It's that simple. Finally, have an honest conversation with your team about your brand's true identity, not just its aspirations. Remember, authenticity is built through consistent effort. It's not invented overnight. These steps will lay the groundwork for lasting change for your business. And finally, the truth is that authenticity is not a tactic. It's really the only strategy that works. Stop trying to be someone else. Stop trying to be anyone else. Start being unapologetically yourself. Now, that's not a free pass to just be mean to people or to speak without thinking. That's not the case. But to bring your personality out, your audience is waiting for that. The brands that win are not the ones that are the most clever or the most polished. They're the ones that are the most honest. They're the ones that have the courage to say, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. They're the ones that know what they won't do. That clarity, conviction, consistency, that's what's going to build real loyalty and build real business. Okay, so we've got some resources here. I highly recommend that you check these out. We have the Waffle House study to look at. We have Wendy's, Bangor Police Department, Oatly. Specifically check out Oatly's brainwashing page. I think that is a wonderful example of doing things right. Here we have a few minutes left, so we're going to take a look at a couple of these video examples and see if we can break down some good and some bad. All right, so the first thing that we're going to look at here would be Wendy's. And let me share screen. All right, so the first thing that we're looking at here would be Wendy's. Now, Wendy's has done a phenomenal job, particularly on X or Twitter through the years. And again, remember that they're being themselves. This is what you might expect if you walked into basically any Wendy's establishment in the country. So here, somebody said, if you reply now, I will buy the whole Wendy's menu right now. Prove it. Now, that doesn't sound like corporate talk. Most of us are too scared to write something like that on our business page, but Wendy's is so much bigger and so much more successful. And so we can see how that took off. Here's your proof. Thanks for sharing your baby pictures. Why are y'all like this? Right? They have the conversation. They're not just dropping these witty one-liners and walking away. They carry on the conversation. Here we can see McDonald's talking about how by mid 2018, all of their quarter pounder burgers at the majority, all of the burgers at the majority of the restaurants, so not all of the burgers at all, will be cooked with fresh beef. Wendy's using it as a perfect opportunity for what they stand on. So you still use frozen beef in most of your burgers and all of your restaurants, asking for a friend. Here we can see I want Wendy's, but my girlfriend wants McDonald's. What do? There are plenty of fish in the sea, right? And so they're being playful. This is what you might expect when you go in and you talk to people, right? Think about the type of people that work there. Usually going to be a little bit younger, not always, but usually going to be a little bit younger, might have a little better sense of humor, be a little snarky, also might be a little impatient. That's very similar. And if they think they have a better product, which most of us do, they're not afraid to stand on that. Here we have McDonald's again with a clear error, or maybe they were just trying to be funny. That's always possible. But Wendy's is not going to let that just slide on by. So when the tweets are as broken as the ice cream machine, everybody knows that McDonald's ice cream machines are always broken. So we can see, well played, Wendy's. So people get behind that, right? My friends like Wendy's, but I don't. What do I tell them? Apologize for being wrong, right? So we can get behind all of the authenticity, the honest answers that are coming out because it feels like the experience that we would have when we walk in the door. Now, speaking of that, there's maybe nobody better than Waffle House at this. And so Waffle House is not a nice place to go. And I'm ready for the fights that will come in the comments over this, but that's just the truth. It's not nice, but it's consistent. I loved Waffle House when I was still eating a Waffle House. I've eaten at so many of them across the country, and they're all virtually the same. And you might see something that says ham, right? And if you understand what they mean by that, well, you understand Waffle House. We can see who needs a Valentine when I have the All-Star special. Again, we're not even capitalizing. They don't care. They understand who their market is, who they're trying to attract. They're trying to, they know that the old people that have always come to Waffle House are going to come to Waffle House as long as they don't mess that up. But to reach a new brand, they need to tell everybody why all of us older people like them. So to reach the younger audience, they need to do that. And so the language will emulate that, but in a way that still is very authentically Waffle House. Actually, when I decided to do this, you can see how many others have tried to kind of be on that same bandwagon. But when I decided to use this as the topic to go over, it was actually Waffle House that made me do it. And it was because, I don't know if I'll find it right away. New year, same order. Makes sense. Hope I get bacon instead of coal for Christmas. They're asking questions about how people like their food. Making Christmas about Waffle House. This is great. Yeah, so the reason that I wanted to actually demonstrate this, I don't know if I'll see it. But it was essentially somebody was just on, kind of trolling them online and said that Waffle House wasn't even that good. And we saw Waffle House respond and say, I dare you to come into any of our locations and tell our cooks that to their face. Once again, nobody that's been in a Waffle House wants to go get into it with a cook there. They are well prepared that the cooks there are ready to fight. So we're not doing that. So just another example of, the experience that we interact with online is very similar to the experience that we're going to see there. Even things like the Zodiac, we can see, right? They're making it about them instead of tying into a trend. All right. Now let's look at a couple commercials here. So first, we have the Pepsi commercial. This only lasted for 24 hours before it was pulled down. So one of the largest brands in the world, one of the most successful brands at advertising of all time, and one of the hottest celebrities at the time. It was probably in the most demand at the time, and still, with thousands of dollars in research and maybe millions of dollars in research and production and all of that, it lasted less than 24 hours and completely ruined their reputation for a period of time. So let's take a quick look. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear this. I want to make sure that that's coming through. Can you hear? Just some background music right now. Can't hear? Okay. All right, I'll share this after a while. It's just background music. You guys can see what's going on. We have a movement of people. We're clearly capitalizing on what was going on. There were a lot of protests taking place. And the idea here is that, obviously Pepsi could just solve everything. Everybody could just get along if we just had more Pepsi. And so, as we can see, different cultures coming together, frustration, and of course, right as the camera shows up, it makes sense that the supermodel might want to go down and be part of it. Again, doesn't feel real at all. Trying not to jump too far ahead here. There's still no words in this, by the way, in case anyone thought they were missing out. So the super rich supermodel billionaire is going to go get a Pepsi and give it to police in order to solve our social justice issues. This seems like pandering. It seems like you're hopping on the trend, and they deserved the backlash that they got from this. This wasn't their brand at all. This was about the moment. And now it's all over, apparently. Everybody's happy because they drank a Pepsi, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense at all. I think you guys can tell that. Okay, so because no we have no volume. I don't know if it's going to do a lot of good to show you the other videos, so we'll link those in. Let's take a look at a couple of static Oatly ads. So I love looking at Oatly ads. They are, like I've said, one of my favorite. They do a great job of changing the message, but never changing the messaging, but never the message. And so I love the way that they go about this. All over large cities, all over the world, you can find stuff like this. I'm not going to click on that one because I do have it pulled up here. We can say, just questions like maybe they're FAQs, maybe they're goofy, obnoxious FAQs. Maybe they're there to speak for their audience instead of speak to them. Here's a good example. We can see we bought this billboard to tell you about the climate footprint numbers we've included on our products. And we're donating this side to the dairy industry so they can tell you their climate footprint numbers too. Brilliant. This is an ad for this. Very simple, not hiding from the fact that it's an ad. If you see another non-dairy frozen dessert ad around town, could you say hi for us? You actually read this? Total success. So they're making fun of the fact that they're advertising because they have to advertise. Will trying oat milk make me like your billboards at all? Probably not. right? This is in quotes. So it's realistically, somebody said this to them. Do I need a different mouth to drink oat milk? Right. So they're changing the idea that this is something different than what you've had. Oh my God, a barista edition oat milk hanging on a bus shelter trying to get your attention. Right. So Oatly is like this. I mean, they're putting up big murals on the side of buildings. This one's actually really cool. It was an installation where they weren't allowed to run the ad there. So this is a guy walking by with boxes stacked on a pallet, and the boxes are painted as well, and he just drops it off right in front of the ad. Anyway, and then here's probably one of my favorites. You know, they take the things that people don't like and they publish them. Here's the response. Here's what we believe. So it's a very good example of understanding that you can be everywhere and be authentic everywhere and get results from it and probably have a lot of fun. Now, one thing they do is they do this 37oatlyads.com, and this is how they rate their ads. And it's funny because you don't get the option to give them a good rating on any of these ads. You just say, I don't like it. I don't like that ad. I don't like your ads. I don't get these ads. Right? Like I don't understand them. And so you have to actually vote and to go to the next one, which is funny. They encourage you to say that you don't like ads. Pretty great. All right, a couple more minutes here. We've got the Duck of Justice from Bangor, Maine. We can see people stopping and taking photos with it. Means people are going out of their way to take photos with this stuffed duck. Just scan through their Facebook page here, and you can see a lot of personality coming through. Pretty funny though, you know, even the posts keep the language rolling, right? Duck of Justice. I got a whole podium for him. In other images, earlier images, you can see this is from 2024. So they started pretty early in this whole game. They kind of launched it so that a lot of police offices around the country started using social media a lot more. And so there's actually some really funny stuff that you'll see where it may say like, um, you know, hey, if you're out drinking and driving tonight to celebrate the holiday, stop on by the police station so we can give you some free jewelry, you know, things like that. And so again, we're seeing people go out of their way to meet with a duck, to take pictures, to post it on their social media, to share it with their friends and family, to say, I saw this thing and it became so much bigger than just Bangor. Bangor is not that big of a location. So, all right, that is Bangor. I want to show you a couple of the others that they spawned off, some cheeky responses that other police departments have kind of started to do since then. And let's see. So I think the mounted patrol monitoring the Comic-Con line is a bit of overkill. No, they're just there to keep an eye on things, but you can just pretend they're Centaur cosplayers if you'd prefer. So they're over here cosplaying and they can communicate with it just like that. Sorry, the Wi-Fi in the kitchen of Dunkin' Donuts has been pretty spotty today. We'll be out in 3 or 4 hours. That's pretty wonderful, right? So they're saying, hey, we're playing into what you already think. Police are eating donuts. We're at the donut shop. We're busy. We'll get to it when we can, right? Are you at Main and 6th? That's creepy, Sandy. Don't do that to us, right? They're having fun with it. They're letting their personality come out. Now, a lot of times what we're going to be tempted to do is just turn this over to the youngest person on our team. And I urge you caution against that. Understanding your authentic voice is not about just being the funniest or the most sarcastic. But here's a good example. Anyone lost a huge amount of cannabis in the Chelmsley Wood area? Don't panic. We found it. Please come to the police station to collect it. Right? You can have fun with this. And then here's some other things with that Duck of Justice as before I guess they put it into the case and they were just taking it around town. So that's the end of what I wanted to show you. Aside from the videos, we'll add the videos in with the class. We'll also post the videos of these in the mastermind channel so we can talk about them a little bit more. But understand that the point of today is to really get a grasp of what's possible with your authentic brand voice once you really refine it and start putting it out there, and some of the ways that we need to avoid mistakes. Because once we step outside of authenticity, we can actually cause way, way more harm than good. And as you see the videos of the failed attempts at branding, I think you'll quickly understand that you don't want to go down that route. So that's it for today. I hope that this has been beneficial to you to both give you a good direction to go and a direction to avoid with this type of thing. And not just social media. Please don't just take this message for social media. It's for your website, it's for your blogs, it's really anywhere that you show up. This is how you show up, and this is how you sound when you're there. And so figure out what that is. Make sure that anybody that's part of that voice can be part of it. So everybody fits into it. Follow the framework and the pillars that we laid out, and you'll have no trouble creating what is uniquely you in a world where everything is starting to sound the same. So again, that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you have questions, comments, or concerns about this particular masterclass, please drop them in the comments below if you're watching in the class vault, or if you want to bring this into the mastermind where we can talk more about branding and how to position yourself in an authentic way so that you resonate with your target audience the best. That's it for today. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Go sell more stuff.